All right, sit on something to get some elevation to your body so you can lift the hip. Your hips are a little lifted. Cross your shins. We all know the work. Flex the feet. Place the hands on the thighs. Lift your spine. Drop the shoulder, chin lifted. Press your hands down again. Lift your spine up taller. Exhale, draw your back ribs in towards each other. Your side ribs forward. Your front ribs up. Drop your shoulders again. Let your eyes close. And with your hands resting on your thighs, turn your palms up. Because when we touch things with our hands, the human instinct may be to grab or to hold. But the outside world doesn't always have the answers. I've seen hundreds of props and dozens of new fads come and go to be sold that's supposed to give you that thing you're looking for. So for a moment, as you begin this practice, with your palms turned up on your thighs, take this as a moment that you're not going to look outward for the answer. You're not going to grab something from the world outside of you to pull it in. You're going to get a hold of something that cannot be grabbed with the physical hand. It can only be grabbed with that emotional part of yourself, that discipline, that love, that strength, that compassion that you need to pull forward. Because remember, yoga is not an external to internal practice. Well, it is. But it's not something that can be packaged and sold. There's a part eventually where you have to let go of all of the sensation of the grip and the push and the pull and see what's inside first and pull something out of there and put it in front of you. Whether it's you're tired, you're angry at your body, or at the world, or you're sad, or you're happy, let it come from inside out. And what you want for yourself, grab that too. Even if it's a small thing, like, you've had a bad day, one good thing you can think of is this, grab a hold of that. But not with your hands, but with your heart. With that discipline and focus that you've created in your yoga practice before now, and that you will continue to grab to work on today. As you've all probably heard me say before, we all bring something into the mat, and what we bring to the mat's ultimately going to be what we practice. So in this tradition, we practice structure and alignment to make sure what we're doing with our physical body is safe and healthy and good. But the teacher doesn't reach inside you and pull out your emotions to pull out that thing that you really want to work on and create more of. So take this moment, these next few breaths, and whatever it is. For me last night, it was discipline. And I don't know what it might be for you, but take a moment. No matter how scary it is, or how you think you might or might not be good enough, or that you might be being selfish or greedy, who cares? This is no one else's yoga mat. This yoga mat is your time and your world. Once you've got a hold of it, take a breath, and as you exhale, bring your palms together at your chest, thumbs touching your sternum. Hold that thing that you want more of, internal growth. Take a breath in. Blow them shortly 3 times and then begin. Om. 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 Bow your head for a moment. Salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. Salute that, what you hold and carry in your hands in this just moment, that thing that can't be grasped physically, but only from that deep emotional part of yourself that you want more of. And remember that all the other things that come up that you do or do not want, we all start at the bottom rung of enlightenment or self-growth, and we have to climb that ladder. And some of those rungs are hard. Some of those rungs are anger and sadness, are happy and joy. And we have to grab a hold of them, understand them, and climb with them to reach the top, whatever that may be for all of us. Bring your hands into your lap, let your head rise, and your eyes open. Cool. So nice to see everybody. All right. Stand up. Let's do some standing. Let's do a few standing poses to warm up the body, and then we'll play around with some seated and some laying down stuff tonight. So good to be back. You know, time off is lovely, but I'm happy you're teaching in person. But you know, here we are. So no prop, just stand in Tadasana for a moment with the thighs together, feet together. Just your Tadasana, the Tadasana that you go to. Just the one that you go to or you don't go to, right? It's in your book. You just don't always go to it often without being told. Go to it and then check in with your body first. What's happening for you here? Where are your feet? Where are your thighs? Where are your hands? Where's your back? Where's your shoulder, your neck? Where's your attitude? Where's your fatigue? Where's your happy? Where's your sad? Have you checked out from all of that? Remember that I've often said yoga is meditation and movement, and meditation is not blanking the mind. It's being in the currents of all those things, right? Like I said in that little, you know, internal journaling moment about climbing the ladder. You can't skip this stuff. And it would be very easy for all of us to be able to skip a lot of the trials of yoga or our own personal trials, but you can't have a testimony without the test. You've got to kind of test yourself, not about judgment, but to see where you are. So just in your Tadasana for a moment, assess that. Where are your thighs? How do you feel about your knees? Do you have old injuries? Are you already worried about them? So just in Tadasana, the first active pose, check in with yourself. Take a few breaths. Stretch both arms straight up in Baddha Kolasana. Can you lift your arms as much as you push your feet down into the floor? So that when here in even Baddha Kolasana, take another breath. Did this change any of that other stuff? I think Iyengar Yoga slowed down so much, not because it was, you know, it toned the body or shaped things more. It does, but there's also a moment when you're really in it. The change that takes place is not just a physical change, but there's a mental, emotional change. For me, it created discipline. And for me, it made me confront and ultimately learn to love myself and the things that were going on with me when I first started yoga, and still to this day. So when you're in your pose, are you checking out, like, you know, just droning yourself out in the voice of the teacher, or wishing you were playing music, or you have yourself muted and you are playing music there, right? It's okay if you are. But can you extend up through here and check in with yourself, what you've got going on as you hold this for whatever length of time I'm going to have you here? Might be a minute, might be 5. I just came back from a week off. You no clue what you're going to get. But that shouldn't matter. Because ultimately, you take what you need from the teacher to discover deeper self, to continue climbing that ladder, and move on. Great. Interlace your fingers behind your head. Move the elbows back. Push the hands into the head. Tilt your chin up slightly, just ever so slightly, so you get that flexion of your upper back arms, something we've done many times before. to move the dog. Step wide, 3.5 to 4 feet apart. Oops, hit that part. Step nice and wide, hands behind your head again. Just a few standing poses. We'll warm the hips up. I know. So with the hands pushing to the back of the head, the elbows moving back, so the chest bone must open. Turn your right toes out. Move the left thigh back. And remember, when you bend the right knee, stretching your right knee out over the right heel, your left hip resists against that movement, pushing down through the outer left heel. So bend the right knee into Virabhadrasana 2 or Warrior 2 for a moment. Tonight's not going to be like extremely physically destroying. I'm not in the mood to like, you know, put the hammer down and do all the heavy stuff. But I would rather you go a little bit into it and see what's just there. My old yoga studio shirt I'm still wearing, they used to call Yoga Studio 72 because there's an old study that said it takes 72 seconds to really create lasting physical change on the body. I think they're, with the way Mr. Iyengar taught, slowing it down, being in the poses longer, you're not just making lasting physical change, you're making lasting mental change. I have stories that I tell about my body and myself, or how much I dislike or like these poses or things like that. And they come up and go through me when I do some of these poses, even the basic ones on days where I hurt a lot. But the more I put myself back into them, the more that story changes. I recognize that's not how I really feel. That's not how I want to talk about myself or my body or my practice. But I'm not expecting the practice to do all the work. I'm working with it. I'm mentally putting myself into it more. So put yourself into it. What's going on in your knee, your hip, your thigh? Is it hurting? Is it achy? How do you feel about it? What do you want to get out of it? And can you, for a moment, instead of just focusing on the negative or the shadows or whatever part you want to call it, right? The chitti vritti, pick out that thing that's the next rung up for you. What's past your chitti vritti? And don't just jump to, I'm enlightened. There's like a step or two between there. So what's past chitti vritti for you? Happy? Cranky? Ice cream? Ice cream's a feeling, trust me. Straighten your right knee. Turn your right toes in, turn your left toes out. Bend the left knee. So don't force it down super low. Just resist your right leg against it so you're working both halves of your body and you're putting yourself in the pose, and let yourself be in it. I know it's nice to have the teacher hold you accountable, right? Like, you know, the teacher can sit here on the camera and go, why are you not in the pose? Right? Brian, bend your left knee more. Tuba, lift your chest up a little more, right? It's nice to have the teacher do that. So now that the teachers might give you a few adjustments, what comes up for you even then? For me, when my teacher adjusted me, I was so proud. I was like, I was good enough to be helped. Roll your eyes. But always give yourself to be in your poses in your practice. I'm always going to make sure, one of my big things as a teacher is to never tell you that you're right or wrong, but to always make sure you're practicing things in a safe way. Because, you know, one of you might be the person that figures out, well, if I move my hip and knee like this, I go up the ladder super fast in the enlightenment. I don't know. And I've always said I get more from teaching my students than I ever got from practicing solo. All of you share with me. So I want you in your work. So ultimately you enrich the world. But, all right. A few more seconds, take a breath, lean your chest back, open up yourself into the pose a little bit, find a spot where you're tight and gripping, let it relax just a little so you can have a feeling about it that's up the ladder one more. Straighten the leg, turn the toes in. Fold forward, take both hands onto the floor, standing straddle stretch, please. So we're gonna do a few standing poses, and we're gonna do this one in between just so you can kind of reset for a moment. So whatever width you need to stand, about 4 foot apart. Right? Already start to feel, just with your arms straight, your back straight, stretch your chest bone away from your hips, push your thighs back. Feel what's going on in the pose for you, just to start. Don't worry about what you think the next step is or what you want to jump to. Feel where you are now. It's the only moment we're actually living in. Past is gone, the future is unknown. We are only living in this moment. You're on this rung of the ladder. I'm so grateful and glad you are here. Take a breath. If you would like, walk your hands back in line with your heels, bend your elbows so your chest can go down, but try to keep the length. And then as you start to look at your feet, are they in the same alignment? You start to feel parts of your body that might be stretching or aching or relieving. Where does that put you internally and emotionally? I have been a person in the yoga practice, and I've known people in the yoga practice that was very much not about the internal process, was not a big thing. It was just always about the external. How physically in alignment am I? What show am I putting on? How am I appearing to my peers and teachers or the people I was competing with myself? So just take a moment. I haven't given a huge amount of adjustments because I want you to kind of just get into the shape and then feel what happens to you in that shape. Especially after you've been in it a minute or 3. And it's not always a negative. Sometimes I get into poses and I find a lot of relief and joy washes over me. It's like coming home. That's a different rung on the ladder than I am in another pose with another part of my body. Straighten your arms, but keep your forward folded. Just straighten your arms so your chest is out long, your legs are nice and long. So let's just work on this pose for a moment. I want you to stay in the pose, but listen, you're going to look at your left foot and you're going to put more pressure on the outer edge of your left foot and feel how that changes the inner front left hip. Push really hard down through that outer left foot, even if your knee turns out just a hair. Don't let your foot turn out, but even if you feel your knee kind of have to bend a little bit, push down to that outer foot. You may get a cramp. So I've been kind of working on this inner thigh muscle stuff, and I found that when you work through the outer foot of each hip or each foot, it changes the inner thigh muscles on the opposite leg quite a bit. So keep pushing through the left foot. Now look at your right foot and really push down even harder through that. Almost roll just a little and push straight down. You don't want your big toes to come up off the floor or your inner heels, but I want you to put more work on pushing down through the outer part of the foot than you even are putting in straightening your knees. Even if you have to bend your knees to do this, go right ahead. But the more you push down through that outer foot, and then bend your knees a little, and then try to point your knees forward without losing any of that pressure on your foot. It's going to be very hard for a lot of us. It actually is going to, it's part of what changes the pelvis muscle. Now work that, and now lengthen the legs and hold for the next however long. Now that you got guidance, right, to a different part or a different feeling of it, what changed mentally, internally, emotionally? Right? You can be invigorated and have the highest highs because you were taught or shown maybe something you didn't know or needed. But it's only going to matter if you carry it with you and continue to explore it. Do not always try to duplicate it, but explore it. Right? You ever go to vacation to the same place twice? It's going to be different somehow. Different experience. First time you see the most beautiful painting in the world, it's awe-inspiring. Second time you see it, super nice, just maybe not the exact same shock. You appreciate it differently. You love it differently. Same is true for your body. Don't try to force the same stretch every time. But let yourself be struck by it. Have different thoughts and feelings about it. Climb the ladder. Place your hands on your hips to bring your body up. Ooh. Turn your right toes out again. Have a block or two nearby. I apologize. I should have said grab a block. Put one block on each side of your right foot. Right. And then put both hands on the block with your right knee bent as Tristan's doing. Your left foot is still pointing straight out, so don't turn your left heel up. Your left foot is still where it was when you were just standing wide. It won't feel weird. But I ain't worried about weird. Lena, I hope your husband's okay. I see an empty yoga mat and I just see no man there. You'll just have to tell him I'm sorry you missed. All right. So from here, right knee bent, both hands on the blocks or on your chair. If you have a chair at home where you're using some other level of height, that's perfectly okay. Right knee bent, both hands on the blocks or chair. Check in with your left foot. Can you put more pressure on your outer left heel again? So roll to the outer edge of the foot a little bit more. So you're going to feel your hips lift up in the air. This is normal. When we get really tight in the hips and then we try to push ourselves really down low in poses, it can collapse the foot. And this puts more strain on the groin and actually does not give some relief to the areas that we need. So put more work to your outer left foot. Roll out onto it and then push down. Of course, push your big toe down, your inner heel down, but really even let your hips lift a little and put more down through that left leg. Keep it and then bend your right knee a little bit. You may not go as low. You may shake a little bit, but your thigh muscles are going to start working differently. Inner thigh, yeah. Again, work through the outer left heel leg, pressing down. You roll the foot just a little, and then you push down through that foot, even if your hips come up. That just tells me that when your foot is in the right position and strong and stable, the work that needs to happen is more up into the mobility of your hip and your inner thigh muscles than your forefoot and ankle. And this will strengthen your feet quite deeply. If you are a person that has foot issues, inner knee issues, or inner groin issues, you have to start working and reshaping your foot to work up all the way into your hip and into your back. Bend the right knee a little deeper, but only if you can keep that outer left heel, like just pull it a hole through your mat. Even if we didn't change the pose from just this simple lunging action, this sets up 4 or 5 other yoga poses. We could go to revolve side angle, revolve triangle, chest to knee pose. There's a bunch of things we could do, but they would all still require, can you work that left leg in the same manner, pushing down through that outer foot, rolling that foot just enough to get that outer heel so hard into the floor that your leg just has to be on fire to do it. And like I said, you're going to hold the pose for a while because you need to check in with what's going on with you feeling this. You go to the Louvre for the first time and you see the, Michelangelo's David. You don't just kind of glance at it and walk away. You look at it. You're all works of art. Why do you think I walk around yoga classes looking at your bodies? You're all art to me. So I watch you look at your own bodies and your own selves. Yeah, Michelangelo's David's ankles are not great either, but so we'll work on them. That's funny. All right, take a nice deep breath. Straighten your right leg, just even from there. Keep your hands on the blocks. If you need to turn them up, turn them down, whatever you want, but only move, you work that right leg and now work your left leg more. And then keep that left foot down, roll into that outer foot, drive it through into the floor, and roll your left hip forward towards your right foot. Don't twist your back, but rotate that hip joint a little bit. But only if you can keep that left foot down. You only go as far as you can keep your outer left heel. And I don't just mean it's lightly touching. I mean it is going through the ground as if all of your body weight and gravity were pushing it down. A lot of yoga poses, especially I've noticed this in my legs sometimes, it's easy to collapse to the inner foot. This messes your ankle, knee, and hips up. Even here, if you try to roll that left hip forward while pushing that outer left heel down, remember I've talked about in past classes, all yoga poses work two parts moving away from each other. Your left hip's moving away from your left heel. So the left heel has to actively move away from the hip. Mr. Angar said, all parts of you are involved in this. So use all parts of yourself. That's where the old line where he would just look at you if you weren't doing it and go, you were doing yoga like a dead fish came from. A dead fish does nothing. None of you are dead fish. You're all art. So actively move your left foot away from your left hip. Move your left hip forward away from your foot. They don't want to be next to each other. Make some space. And stretch that right leg long as you can. Doesn't have to be straight. Go for a long. Lengthen the knee. Don't straighten it. It's a round joint. And again, hold. Feel what rung of the ladder of life you're on. Right? Are you happy about this? Sad about this? Comforted by this? And what's past that for you? What's the next thing you want to get to? Don't just try to jump to enlightenment or perfect or even whole. You're already whole. What kind of whole are you? Whole foods, whole happy? All right, bring your bodies up. Bend your right knee, stand up. Let's do the other side, then we'll go back to standing straddle. Right toes in, left toes out. Can you believe it? Class is half over? Oh my God. Some of you are like, yeah, I know, Dustin. It's just great. Thanks. So keep your right toes pointing straight out, just as if you were standing nice and wide. You were prepping for a standing pose. Push down to that right foot. Already prep that right leg for what you're going to do. Roll to the outer foot, push the heel down, and then turn your left toes out. Take both hands to your blocks, bending your left knee. But then don't lose the right foot. Roll more to the outer part of the foot. Your big toe and your inner heel do not come off the floor, but I want you to put more effort on the outside than on the inside. Trust me, you put more effort on the outside of your foot, your inside of your whole leg will work. Those classes gone, I've ramped up the instruction because now, we're going into the weird little corner spaces of ourselves. The first few poses, it's just you feeling you. And it's still you feeling you, but now it's like harder because we're being specific. Because specifics are difficult. It's easy to blanket statement. I just, my body sucks. Because I got a bad knee and I don't know where it's coming from. I'm just in a bad mood because I had this one bad moment, bad day because I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. That's such a generalization. And we generalize a lot. I'm sure we could have a long discussion about that in our current climate and culture. But let's have the discussion with ourselves first about ourselves. Can we develop the strength and the discipline or whatever it is we need to be specific about ourselves, about our words, about our body, and about how we feel about ourselves before we start to go elsewhere? Work that outer foot. Push that right outer heel down. And then you can bend the knee a little. But only bend the left knee deeper if you can keep the outer right foot so firmly down that you feel like that's 90% of the pose, and that left knee bent is like the last 10% of just like, I guess this is where we're moving. So a simple lunge, working that leg in that way. You might feel change up through your hip. Yeah. Take a breath. Go ahead and straighten your left leg, chest to knee. So when you straighten that left leg, lengthen the knee, lengthen the leg, stretch the left hip back, hands on the blocks, the chairs, the whatever you need. Work through that outer right heel more. Now that the hip is higher, it's easier to get it up. And then remember, two parts move away from each other, create the stretch. Work your right outer heel away from your right hip. Work your right hip forward away from your right heel. Don't let one part just hang out. And then your left leg may bend or straighten a little more. It doesn't matter. You're going to be in a stretch there, but really this is about how can you work your legs, especially your back leg, to really challenge your poses. I've always said in these poses, these standing poses, the front leg is your power, your left leg in this case, your back leg is your balance. I will always take balance over power. Balance lets me hold the poses longer, lets me get more out of them, lets me get more out of myself. Power fails. And when power fails, it feels bad. So go for balance. You'll find some more stuff there. So work that outer heel, Triz. Right. More right. No. A few more seconds. Take a few breaths. Don't worry. I'm not going to leave you here forever. All right. Bend the knee. Bring the body up. Turn your left toes in. Fold forward. Take both hands onto the floor in standing straddle. Back to where you started. Like I said, this was going to be the rest pose in between. So with both hands on the floor, look at your feet. Bend your knees if you have to. Work through that outer part of the foot. Roll to the outer part of the foot, push down. Shift the hips back. Arms nice and straight. And then when you lengthen the leg, the foot pushes down, the outer part of the foot pushes down, and your hips pull up away from that. And then your chest pulls away from your hips. There you go. Make some space and then see what's in there. If you want to go lower, but you can keep the other parts, by all means, walk your hands back in line with your heels and let your chest go down. But if you're in awareness, if you're feeling something, why skip it? Feel it. Be nuanced about it. I think one of the best things that if you're a yoga teacher, I think I may do well as a yoga teacher is that I have a lot of words for what's going through because I stayed in it for so long. I think that's one of the biggest pieces my teachers were trying to impart to me is like, get in it. There's no right answer. There's only the answer of your experience. So the longer you stay in it, the more you're going to get out of it. So don't worry about pushing past it. Take a nice breath. Bring your body up. Very good. All right. Turn your right toes out. One last standing pose, and then we'll sit down. But you all know sitting down is a trap too. So you know. Both blocks, one on each side of your right foot. Yeah. That's good. So take both hands onto the blocks. Left toes still pointing the same direction they were in the straddle and everything else. So when you take both hands to the blocks, right toes turned out, right knee bent, both hands on the blocks, work that outer left heel down. If the whole upper body is stretching away from the left foot stretches away from the whole body. Two parts moving away from each other. See what's in that space. Because we are all so full and so beautiful, like a work of art, right? There's all these little details that would take years to see. There's a lot of complexity to you. So take your time looking at it. Make some space to look at it. Lengthen your right leg, straighten it out, stretch the knee long. So if your right hip is pushing back, stretch your chest away from your right hip, make some more space there. If your left heel is going down, stretch your chest away from that. So your upper body is stretching away from 2 points of the body. Take your right hand onto your right hip for a moment. Revolve the right ribs up. only take your right ribs up or right shoulder up as high as you can keep your left heel coming down. So if your right ribs are going to the sky, your right shoulder is going to the sky, your left heel stretches down into the floor more to get away from your right shoulder. Right shoulder goes away from heel, heel from shoulder. Just twist a little bit. Don't even worry about going far deep into it. Just worry and work on focusing, can you keep the other structures so that when you're moving into this, you're not sacrificing anything and you're really getting into like the deeper pieces and parts of this pose. Because the thing I can offer as a teacher is kind of some guidance to do it safely, to go a little deeper so you can, when the cameras are off and you're up by yourself, you can really see that, you know, no matter how much you've watched on Netflix or how whatever HBO's got going on, you are infinitely more complex and more interesting because of what you got going. So get comfortable with what you have going on inside of you, your aches, your pains, your ups, your downs, where on the ladder of life you are, and what's the next thing past you, where you are. Take a breath. Hand on the block, bring your body up. Turn your right, bring your blocks with you, switch your sides. Turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out. Or left toes out, right toes in. Turn your right toes out. So we should be on the left leg now. Both blocks near the left foot, one hand on each block. Bend your left knee, and when you go down, work your right foot down more. You okay, Ms. Shuba? Good, thank you. You all doing good. So work that outer right foot down. Remember, if your whole body is going to the left, your right foot is going to go the other way. And bend the left knee. Take a couple breaths. Roll your right hip forward, straighten the left leg as you go. So as your left hip comes back, your chest stretches away. Left hand on the left hip. Work your outer right heel down more. As your body wants to move away from the right heel, move your right heel away from your body. Create that stretch of action. This long point that allows that rotation. And then don't lean away, lean towards it a little. Lean your body, upper body towards your left leg so you're not like falling backwards. It's not going to twist very far because what I'm trying to get by keeping your leg in this position, one, structures the knee differently. Two, it keeps it so you can't overly twist your low back. For a lot of us, we won't be able to twist very deep at all if you're working your leg correctly, unless it's from totally your upper back, because it makes you work, keep your legs and pelvis stable and won't put pressure on your joints. Twist. Better. Take a couple breaths. Outer right heel, push it down. As much force as you're trying to put into the twist, 90% of it goes into that foot, 10% goes into the other part. All right, up you go. Have a seat on the floor, sitting in a straddle with a yoga strap, please. If you don't have a yoga strap, belts, towels, whatever you got. I hope everyone's got a yoga strap. If anyone in this room doesn't have a yoga strap at home, see me after class and I'll send you one. I'm not joking. I'll gladly share. Things in my life are okay. I will gladly get you a yoga strap if you don't have something. Gotta start sharing the love, right? You gotta start somewhere. All right.
Dustin,
So now, yes, Carrie.
on the previous posture, the front foot is also pressing on the exterior. Yeah. So both feet are doing the same action. Gotcha.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, good. So in a straddle, hook the strap. If you can make a large loop. If you do not have a strap that is large enough to make a large loop, you can just keep it unlooped and hook it around each foot. But it would be good if you could put the strap around each foot like you've tied the two together. Tristan is doing a pretty good job of, there we go. See the corgi also. There. If you do not have a long enough strap, it's okay to hold each end in the hand and hold it with your hands and hook it around each foot. Ooh, the Chai's got the super long straps. Good for her. Yeah, FYI, I'm a big fan of the 10-foot or 12-foot straps. There's no reason anything a 6 or an 8-foot strap can do, a 10-foot and a 12-foot could do better. Just and more. So, Punta Vista. You might have a block behind you to place your hands on and lift your chest up, just to get some lift to the rib cage. As you can see, the strap's around the heel mostly. It's not around your poor little toes. And break the strap. Just bust it. When you push out on the strap, feel in your legs which leg is doing the most work. If you don't know which leg it is, try to work both of them and then stop with one and see if the other one's really working. And then try to flex them both and stop with the other. You just kind of got to test to see which one it really is or is not. Because a very interesting thing happens is that if we get injured or we create weird alignments in the pelvis, one side will over-dominate the other. Every single person goes through this. It's called our dominant versus our non-dominant side. Or if you have injuries like I do right now, my left hip is more dominant than my right hip. So my right knee is out of whack. So you got to think about, can you flex both of them equally then? So as you push out, you only push on the strongest one as much as the weakest one can. And it's going to be hard because the strong one wants to just do its thing and not worry about it. But just like when we were kids, if you had a sibling that was younger, you know, and you went off and your mom said, take your little brother or sister, you had to wait for them. They weren't faster than you. Right? So when you push out, lift your heart and then work your left equal to your right and your right equal to your left. Both parts are moving away from each other equally. Sorry. Good. And even just this can be a lot of work in the legs. Lift the spine, go for length. Flex the thighs, push the thighs down. And when you push down on your thighs, which thigh presses harder into the floor? Test it. Only do one, your right, then do your left, and then try to do both equally. And take your spine out of it because we tend to want to lean to one side more than the other. Tristan leans to her left. I lean to my right. So you got to kind of feel in your own spine, even using the weight of your hands on the blocks. Which way does your spine want to tilt when I say press the thighs down? And can you remove that tilt by pressing equally and then feel it? Because if your thighs go up, your thighs go down, your spine actively goes up. Right? Two parts work opposite. Each foot works away from each other. The legs go down, the spine goes up. Like we've always been, we're just holding them. See what's going on here. Do you start to shake? Is it super easy? And if it's super easy for you, how does that make you feel? Take a nice breath. Take the block out from behind your back. Keep the strap. Lay on your back. break the strap here. Just lay flat. Supta Usta Vista. Supta Vista. Push the heels out against the strap here. And this will be very hard. The outer hip flexors have to work very, very hard here. So now we work the inner leg. Now we're doing the outer leg. And again, check which leg wants to dominate the other. So just work your left for a second. See how strong that is. All right. Then that leg relaxes. Do your right. And then work both equally. Don't ask your weaker leg to work as hard as your stronger leg for as long. Ask your stronger leg to chill or to back up a little so it can work with the other half of your body. And then press your thighs down. And when you press your thighs down, test which one goes down easier or has the most strength to do so. Do one while you're breaking the strap, and then do the other while breaking the strap, and then try to do both equally. So your pelvis, your outer hips, your inner pelvis muscles get a lot of work on this. Not true. Oh, it's fine. And we could do other range of motions with this. We could start lifting the legs and start doing twists with it and all sorts of stuff. We're not going to do it today. I would like for the class to practice this a little bit. We might start adding that as we go into other classes. But for right now, can you just work the balance of your legs from standing, seated, and supine? Because I promise you, when you do inversions, your legs have to be just as active equally, or you fall, or you tweak your back. So those of you that worry about the strength of inversions, it's not your upper body always. It's also about, can these legs help support that? All right. Bring your thighs together. Take the strap off, set it to the side. Still, please lay on your back. You still get to lay down. So exciting. I know. Supta Ardha Padmasana, supine half lotus, is a pretty, mechanically, it's not a complex pose. The trick will be, can you work your legs? So you're going to stretch both legs out to start. If you don't know what this is, you want to watch Tristan do it for a moment, feel free to watch or follow along as I talk you through this. Don't worry, you'll have lots of time to do it. If you watch, you won't miss out. You're going to start laying on your back and draw your left knee to your chest. Don't grab the leg, but grab your foot with the right hand, only the right hand. And if you need to use a strap or whatever, that's fine. The shin is not coming to the chest. That's a different pose. But Tristan's going to grab her left heel with her right hand and pull the heel towards her left hip joint, right about where her psoas is. Or left heel to right hip joint, I'm sorry. Right there. Right about where those inner thigh muscles connect up to your pelvis. And then she holds the foot, the ankle specifically if she can, and she presses her right thigh down and then stretches her left knee down and away from her. Hold the foot. Don't let it slide down your thigh. You only let the knee fall down as far as you can while keeping that heel in place on the hip joint. And then she pauses. And then she feels her thigh muscles. Can she flex each thigh muscle, or can you flex each thigh muscle and push each thigh muscle down equally? It's very hard to do. Your right one doesn't want to work because your left knee wants to do it. So you have to press your right thigh down more and then work your quad of your left bent knee and work that thigh and hamstring down. You're going to go deeper into that hip. And then you'll bring the knee up and we'll switch and do the other side. So if you were watching, lay down, join us. So bend your right knee to your chest. Left hand grabs right heel. Pull the right heel towards left hip. Keep the foot engaged. Hold on to the heel. Press your left thigh down. Find the strength of that leg, however much it is, because however much that leg does, the right leg should try to do, and vice versa. Stretch the right thigh down. And the knee only goes down as far as you can hold it can while holding the foot in that position. It may not be far, it may be very far. Who knows? There you go, Shubha. Stretch that thigh down. Awesome. And then check your legs. You started to go down. Are you pushing the right knee down, or can you flex that right thigh muscle to go down? So it goes down in the hip. The hip gets the work. And is your left thigh still pressing down? Are they working equal? So think about it. If the right thigh is moving away from your chest, your back muscles extend away from your upper body, your hips a little bit. So don't allow yourself to crunch in your shoulder neck. Drop the shoulders so your chest can be long. You can take a deep breath. Because even though it may not be an active movement, like you're not grabbing something, you're pulling your spine away from your hip, you don't want to compress. Take a breath, switch your legs. So we're on the left now. Right hand grabs left heel. Once you've got the heel in place on the hip, holding the heel, not the ankle, not the shin. Stretch the left thigh away from you. The knee goes down to a degree. And just to add, just for a little bit more, right? You know, if you want, and this is actually quite comfortable. Take your left arm overhead and lay it onto the floor and stretch your left arm away from your left thigh. Stretch the 2 points away from each other to find something new in some different space. And then breathe. And notice the difference on each side. One hip's easier than the other, one hip's farther. You still want to work them in balance as best you can. And that means the straight leg pushes down as that bent knee thigh pushes down. Let the left leg go, do the right side. Right knee pulls up to your chest. Left hand grabs right heel. Right heel comes towards left hip. Stays near left hip. Once it's in place, let the thighs start to descend away from your pelvis. And then stretch the right arm overhead, lengthening it away from the thigh. The 2 points create some space, and you live in that space. May not be perfect, but what space is? But you still make it yours. You okay? Taking. It's getting over your shit, huh? That's what happens when you get sharp again. All right. We're going to do one more on each side. So stretch the right leg out, grab your left. This is a really great pose to do on each side to really start getting some hip mobility. Those of us that have issues sitting upright with our knees or our hips or our low back, this is really can be quite useful for getting some movement there, so you feel like you can start to approach a lot of more seated stuff or things like that that require a lot of hip and knee mobility can get there. So left leg.
Hey, Dustin, does the heel go on the thigh or in the groin?
It goes on the thigh
groin.
it goes on the thigh, close to where the thigh, so here's the groin here, the thigh here, it goes kind of in that little pelvis space between, right where the psoas muscle is. So it's not quite on the groin, but it's not quite on the meat of the thigh. It's kind of in the hip area.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Good question. Thank you for asking. So hold on to the foot. You don't just let it lay there. You got to hold on to it and keep it in place so that your strength of flexing that left thigh and descending is stable. Stretch your left arm over. Work your right thigh equal to your left thigh. All right, switch legs. Left hand grabs right heel, heel towards the hip, not the outer hip, the inner hip. Leg descends. Left thigh descends, equal to right thigh. Right arm stretches overhead, lengthens. If you're close to the wall, it's okay to bend your elbow and have it lay across, but the arm extends away from the leg. Two parts go away from each other, they make space. If you need to do another side to be equal, do it now. So if you watched when we did the first left side, you need to do a left side to catch up. Go ahead, do it now. The rest of us will remain here on the right side for about another minute. All right. Take a nice deep breath in, stretch your legs out, relax your arms, head, neck, shoulders. If you would like a blanket behind your head, neck, or your legs up on something to support your back, please do so now. Let's have just a few moments of quiet savasana. We'll kind of keep going. Go on to our day. So let the eyes close, tongue away from the roof of the mouth. Relax the jaw so the teeth do not touch. Just as we worked each side of the body or each part of the body and made space so we saw what part of the ladder of life we're on, right? You know, what comes up in each moment. And I asked you, what's the next rung for you? Can you talk specifically about yourself? Can you feel specifics about yourself so that your generalization becomes incorrect? Remember, one of the distractions of obtaining enlightenment was belief in something that's not true. Saying something's wrong with your whole body just because you've got a knee pain you can't handle is not true. It's hard to be specific. It's hard to get all the details. But in the time we're in, it's so important that we practice hearing, listening with ourselves, so that when we speak with voices that are clear and true, full of emotion and experience and wisdom. It's not just copy pasted from a book or a teacher, but it's something we've all lived and hold dear. So that we can all go up the next rung of the ladder. The things we practice in yoga do not just stay with us. The people that meet us and know us, we treat well, we love. They get the benefits of our practice too. Even if it's sadness or fear or anger, and of course the happiness, the joy, and the sharing. All of it's valid, all of it's beautiful. So whatever rung of ladder you're on in any part of your body, get the specifics of it, my friend. Don't skip it. If you've ever tried to skip rungs on a ladder, it makes it so you fall. And in this practice of yoga, in the savasana, maybe you've got an idea what the next step is, or the next rung is, or how you get there. So see what that next thing is for you, and don't skip enlightenment, but give yourself permission to grab a hold of whatever it is going to be. Sadness, happiness, grief, love. Let yourself take hold and rest for a few moments and enjoy the fruits of your yogic practice. Slowly increase the depths of your breathing. Begin to awaken the body, opening, closing the hands, pointing, flexing the feet. When you're ready, roll to your right side. Press your palms into the floor and slowly up you come. Thank you all so much for being here. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and I'll do the best I can to answer what I got. If you've got to go, namaste. So nice to see everybody. So grateful. All right, question time. If you've got one, go ahead and ask. I'll give it a minute here.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you so much. Remember, if you don't have a yoga strap, don't go anywhere. Let me know. We'll get your info. We'll figure something out.
I've got a question, Dustin.
Yeah, what's up?
Okay, so it was really interesting working the outer foot with the opposition of the outer hip. Back leg felt really, really good. Even finding the spiral from there, really good. Front leg, a lot of trouble. if I kept the weight on the outside of the foot, I was really having a hard time keeping that front hip in.
Oh, instead of it swaying to the side.
Yeah.
So what happens is when we really start to structure the back leg correctly, it pulls that back femur bone in really deep. That back hip can't sway out. So our
No.
lower back, well, that's what makes that back leg feel so good, is that femur bone is really in the socket. And so our front leg can't pull into what we consider normal because we've pushed one side so hard the other way. So now we got to kind of balance of normal, you know?
So I can use that back leg hip kind of like a fixed point to press my other hip into.
Exactly.
Okay.
Kind of like if you ever leaned against the wall doing triangle and someone pushed
Yeah,
into you,
yeah.
same thing. Except now your back leg is that stable point of the wall that the other hip gets to move into, and you get that really stable pelvis. So you get that spiral spine and the forward fold.
Okay. All right, I'll practice that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, dear.
Dustin, the last pose that we were doing in where with the bend, your back arches, and that's okay, correct?
100% normal, and it should, because what happens is when you move the thigh like that, it pulls the muscle that connects into your lower spine, so it creates a natural curve of the spine. One of the reasons we get a lot of low back issues is the back muscles on each side of our spine seize up is to try and keep that curve, because if we slouch a lot or sit too much and it flattens from this to this, so from lordosis to kyphosis, it compresses the disc down and causes a lot of pain. So poses like that are very good for reshaping that natural arch to relieve the nerve tension, and the back muscles get some length and relief to them.
Okay.
A good one to do. I hope it felt good for you. I know you.
It did, except for when I got out of it, my low back is a little sore.
Sore like you move. Okay, so you got to be specific when you say sore. Sore like you tweaked it or you put pressure on it, or sore like it got relaxed and then seized up again. Because there's two different ways it can go on this. Because if your low back is already tight and tired, that may have released it and it relaxed, and then the minute you went back to old habit, it tightened back up.
I think so.
That's something I experience with some of my muscles sometimes, and especially chronic issues. And a lot of people I've worked with have had the same thing. So I would practice it a little bit, kind of explore it. And it might be, if you do it dedicated for a stretch, that soreness goes away because your back muscles have finally let go of that tension and aren't re-seizing up immediately.
Yeah, and I also have a hard time holding the heel with my opposite hand. So with, you say you want to hold the heel and not the ankle or the leg or the foot, how do you do it with the strap then?
Here's the thing. I don't want the foot grabbed here because that just twists your ankle. If you can grab the foot here, great. If you can't, put a strap around it here, around the ankle. That's okay. I just don't want the foot manipulated because that just hurts your knee. Moving it from the bone of the shin or the heel's close to that, gives that correct rotation. So across, so if you put the strap like across here, instead of just the raw ankle, you'd probably get a lot of what you're looking for right there.
Okay. And then I'm also one of those people who uses a scarf and not a strap.
All right. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna get your address here in just a minute. We're gonna just send you a strap. Does anyone else have anything? Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say thank you so much, and I hope y'all are doing well. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Glad you were here.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you, Dustin.
Chaya, Ryan, Caitlin, Chaya. It's ever good to see you by Lena.